It's Rhythm and Soul Radio. I am Marco Nobles. We have our guest line open. Our virtual studio doors are open. And walking through the doors of the virtual studio is the gentleman who has 5 decades in this music industry game. He's been a band leader of the group Pleasure. He's been with the group The Daz Band, Grammy Award winning group. Most of us remember from Let It Whip. He's worked with everybody from Kenny G to New Shoes to George Benson and on down the line. And he continues to make music today. Marlon McClain is with us. Hey, sir, how are you?
I'm awesome. Thanks for having me, Marco.
Yeah, thanks for being here. First of all, I mean, you've been doing this since the early '70s. So, what keeps it going? What keeps it fresh for you?
I would say what keeps it fresh for me is that I just wake up every day feeling super, super thankful and grateful that God gave me the talent to play guitar. That's how I started.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, He gave me the talent to become a producer and listen to other people's music and help them go in the studio to craft what they were thinking of putting out. And then just being able to participate in the music business in general. So I wake up every day just saying, "Wow, I'm just doing what I love to do and thankful for it."
Right. So you said you started as a guitarist. Your first break, I guess, was forming the band Pleasure. So talk about those days because you're from the Midwest. So it's not like you're from New York or LA where people think of the glamour of entertainment and all of that. But talk about that beginning for you and just knowing you wanted to be in music and being able to form a band and getting that first taste of early success.
Right. So I was born in Portland, Oregon, and that's where the group Pleasure was from. We
Oh,
all
I said the Midwest, so
we
I'm
used to,
mistaken. Sorry about that.
yeah, but we were from Portland, Oregon, and same kind of thing though is what you mean, and that is it wasn't a huge cultural center in regards to being connected to the music business and all that kind of stuff. It's basically was an average city, similar like the way Minneapolis is. There's actually kind of similarities to the two cities
Mm-hmm,
in
mm-hmm.
regards to they have a black population, but the black population is not huge, but yet it is really centrally focused, and most of the people come together, and so that's kind of how it was for us in Portland. And I asked my mom to get me a guitar for Christmas when I was like in the seventh grade, and she did that for me, got me a guitar, and literally at the time, you know, all I would really do was stay in my bedroom and try to play James Brown songs and
Mm.
songs by Jimi Hendrix and Chicago, and I just learned by listening to records and taught myself how to play, and then myself and the bassist from Pleasure, Nathaniel Phillips, and the guitarist Douglas Lewis, we lived really close to each other, so we all got guitars at the same time. It was crazy. We all got guitars, and we literally would go back and forth to each other's house, practicing until our parents got tired of hearing us
Ah,
making noise, basically. And then they would tell us to leave, so we would be at my house. My father would say, "Okay, that's enough. You guys got to go." So we would get. At that time, there was a store called Fred Meyer's. We would get Fred Meyer's shopping carts, put our gear in it, and roll it over to the next person's house. So then we go to Douglas's house, be in there jamming
mm.
and stuff, and then all of a sudden his dad would say, "Look, I've had enough. Y'all gotta go." So then
Right.
we go down to Nate's house, and we would just literally just practice all the time and learn how to play music. And so from there, um, that kind of formed into a nucleus of us being known that we were talented, and we connected with the drummer Bruce Carter and formed a nucleus. And from that grew into the part of, originally the group was called Soul Masters, and that was it was formed with some other older musicians who were actually at that time they were in college,
Mm.
and then we eventually changed our name to Pleasure, and then we were able to get our first record deal. We actually got our first record deal with Fantasy Records right before I graduated from high school.
Wow.
So yeah, so I've literally just done music my entire life.
Wow. That's truly called living the dream right there.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, there would be so much to talk about with you, so we won't try to do everything. But I find it interesting. You go from pleasure to the Daz Band, and the Daz Band has numerous hits. Of course, the one that everybody remembers is "Let It Whip." But then you also start producing and writing songs for other artists. Like I mentioned Kenny G and New Shoes, who I remember distinctly for the song "I Can't Wait,"
Right.
which was a big thing for me. Like in college, that was a big song for that we played quite a bit and everything. Um, Talk and it's like distinctive styles. It's rooted in the dance disco funk area, but it's not just that. So talk about that progression of being able to do these different styles, to be able to go from a Kenny G to a Daz band to a to a New Shoes, coming out of the Daz band, and then you're working with people like George Benson. Talk about being able to dip your toe in the different waters, so to speak.
Right, right. Well, the one good thing about Pleasure as a band, and that was the band loved all types of music, and so we kind of incorporated all these different styles into what Pleasure became as a group. And so, you
Mm-hmm.
had the combination of people liking jazz, people liking R&B, people liking rock, people liking pop, and kind of fusion all that. So, my head always loved just music in general. And
Mm-hmm.
then for us, what was great was that we were brought into the business by Wayne Henderson from the Jazz Crusaders, and he
Mm-hmm.
was just a great mentor in regards to at that time when he was producing people. He was very open. He wasn't just a jazz musician, which he was a great jazz musician, but he was when he came to producing, he just thought outside of himself. And
Mm-hmm.
so we were able to, from working with Wayne, because he would use us on a lot of his productions, we were able to learn so much just being in the studio and watching how people worked, and uh, just opening up our minds, right? And so when I got to the point where I wanted to start producing, um, that's just kind of how I looked at it. I always looked at it that the main role of the producer was just trying to get the best out of the music, and not
Mm-hmm.
look at it from a personal standpoint of what I thought was great, but just a part of when you're working with an artist, trying to figure out how to make their songs or what they hear in their head, trying to make that sound as great as possible. And so my early days, I got to work with one of the very records that I made that was real successful was working with Jeff Lorber. And
Right.
so, you know, and Jeff had a certain kind of style that I was seeing play around town with his group and stuff like that, the Jeff Lorber Fusion. And so I would really just try to listen to what they were doing, and then go in the studio with them to try to craft it to make it, not to make it sound like, how can I say it, make it sound where I thought it sounded good to me. Because in a lot of ways,
Mm.
I'm a musician, but I'm also a fan of music, right? So I
Right.
always say if it sounded good to me, if I thought it sounded good, then I thought other people would like it too. And so we started that with Jeff, and that became successful for him. And we're guys like obviously like with Kenny G, and I just had a great career with working with a lot of different types of people, um, with that concept of just trying to make the best of what they were trying to do, just trying to be like that other ear, right?
Mm.
Because obviously the key to me in making good records is that it doesn't sound like what you want it to sound like. It sounds like what that artist is all about, because you're trying
Mm-hmm.
to bring the soul out of them. So as long as you do that and the artist is happy, to me you've done a great job as a producer.
Right, right, and certainly the next step for you, you eventually you started doing your own solo stuff, but the next step for you, which I didn't mention, was you started your own label. You started your music production, Macman Music, and you still work with other artists like Tim Bowman and Whitney McClain and others. And you're still making music, and of course that's part of the reason why we're talking to you. You have a new album coming very soon. The single "Ain't No Stopping Now," featuring BD3, a hip hop artist out of New York here.
Yes.
Um, you mentioned working with different artists and getting things to sound the way they should sound or what they're about. How do you, when you're working on your own stuff and working with different artists, how do you kind of blend the two to make it kind of like your sound or a hybrid of your sound and their sound?
Right, right. Well, when it comes to that, and that record, I think really illustrates that part of what I'm talking about, and that is, I put this thing together called Funky Fridays, and that was almost every Friday I would pick up my guitar, uh, turn on my iPhone, put it on play, and whatever came out, I would just videotape it, and then I would
Mm-hmm.
post it to my Facebook page, right? And I did it just really just for fun. Originally, I did it actually in a lot of ways just to get my family members to actually laugh and just have some fun, right?
Mm.
Just a way of connecting. Because
D-
one thing about Facebook, it's good to do that, right? Just to connect with people.
Right. Now, did you start this before the pandemic or
Yeah, this was
during?
really like about 4 years ago that I
Okay.
first started, right?
Okay.
And I would just always say, "Hey, Funky Fridays," and so from that, a lot of people started waiting for me to do that, and so some of my fans would send me messages, on Messenger, and then
Mm.
it just turned into a thing, and so I decided to start a series called Funky Fridays, right? And so I put out a Funky Fridays Volume One, and now I'm working on Volume Two, and the song "Ain't No Stopping Now" is part of that Volume Two. And when I started getting the song together, which literally came from one of my Funky Fridays idea posts. Once I
Mm-hmm.
got the track together, when I was listening to it, I said, "Oh, this track sounds really good, but I could really hear an East Coast flavor on it."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
In my head, I just felt that having a East Coast rapper put his vibe on top of it, it could really turn into something special. And so I
Mm-hmm.
called up George Littlejohn, who I knew a lot of people there in New York and stuff, and he said, "Marlon, I got a guy that I think you might really like," and he sent me some music of BD3. And when I heard him, I said, "Oh wow, this guy is like awesome." I just really loved his delivery and what he was
Mm-hmm.
talking about, right? And so we got on the phone with each other, and we just had an automatic connection, even though we did not know each other until we talked on the phone.
Right.
I felt like we had been in a band together, right? Just
Mm.
how it just felt natural.
Right.
So I sent him the music. He liked what he heard, and he's put his stuff on. It was like phenomenal. It was like great. I can't say any bad things about it. He was just freaking awesome.
Right. No, it's a perfect match, and we're gonna play it in a bit and get to have everybody hear it. But I do want to ask you though, in terms of being in the business as long as you have and continuing to make music, I think Ain't No Stopping Now is a perfect example of being able to retain, who you are as I call it, a foundation artist. I don't say old school artist or classic
Right,
artist.
right.
I say a foundation artist because you and those like you built the foundation for people like Tim Bowman and Whitney McClain and BD3 and so many others. Um, but being a foundation artist to be able to hold some of that in your music, but also not sound dated. And I think Ain't No Stopping Now is a perfect example of that. I don't know how conscious you are of things like that as you continue to make your own music.
Yeah, I would say that I always listen to what's going on, and so the one thing I love about the era that we're in right now, in regards to streaming and stuff like that, it gives you the ability to listen to whatever is out there. So in
Mm-hmm,
other words, you can
mm-hmm,
go to Spotify or you can go to your Apple Music, and you can literally just find a lot of music, right?
yeah.
And so I've always been the kind of person, I like to listen to what's going on. So I like to keep my ears fresh in regards to knowing that, yeah, I've been around, obviously, because I made our first record came out in 1974. So
Mm,
I've been around, but
right.
I've also maintained a part of being in the business by listening to what's going on, and not necessarily trying to be that, but just trying to understand that that is a part of how the consumer is relating to music. And so
Mm-hmm,
you have to put
mm-hmm.
that in your head too. Like, okay, well, yeah, they don't want to hear me play, Glide, because that was in '79. They don't want
Right,
to hear
right.
that. They want to hear whatever is making them move in 2021. And you have
Mm-hmm.
to say, okay, well, how can I put that part of where they're coming from in my music, but make it where it's still me, where it's not fake in any way, right? It's still a
Mm-hmm.
part of who you are. So yeah, so I do pay attention.
Excellent, excellent. You mentioned you're working on Funky Fridays Volume Two. So talk a little bit more about what we can expect to hear. Is it just more of those songs that you did from the Facebook posts that you've kind of updated, or have you incorporated some newer things? Talk a little bit more about the project and what we can look forward to.
Yeah. Well, all the songs start from my initial guitar idea,
Mm-hmm.
a guitar idea that I would have posted on my Funky Fridays on the Facebook page. Right.
Okay.
And that's kind of like the unique part of it is that I've literally taken these bits and pieces of ideas. They weren't necessarily songs; they were just guitar riffs or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and have turned them into songs. So um, I have BD3 on two other records, which are awesome. He's like
Okay.
shining real brightly. I have Jeff Lorber playing on one of the songs. I have a
Okay.
really great brother, Sekou Bunch, who's from the East Coast playing bass, and
Mm.
he's phenomenal. And we'll be coming out with another single next Friday, June
Mm-hmm.
4th, called "Funkin' Cause We Wanna."
Okay.
And this song is it is crazy funky.
Okay. All right.
You're gonna love it. You're gonna love it. It is crazy funky.
I can't wait.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm really excited. I'm really excited to release the album. Like I said, it's just a continual progression of where I'm going with my music.
Excellent, excellent. Before I let you go, we gotta let everybody know how they can continue to follow you, whether it's on Facebook, social media, website, all of that, and particularly when the album comes out, how they can get it.
Okay, well, I'm definitely on Facebook. Marlon McClain, and I actually have a MacMan music page too. I'm on Instagram. Um, I have a Marlon McClain link tree, so I'm pretty much everywhere. And obviously, the music once it comes out, it'll be on all the streaming sites. It'll be on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube. It'll be everywhere.
Excellent, excellent. Certainly, we'll continue to be playing it, and certainly look forward to the full album coming. Marlon McClain, has been a pleasure to talk to you. We certainly need to do this again so we can go more in depth and talk about your experiences and what you see with the music, because there's so much for you to share, and it's important for you to share it.
Hey, well, thank you so much for having me. I look forward to coming back, and let's just keep it going.
Absolutely. It's Rhythm and Soul Radio. We've been talking with Marlon McClain. The new single, Ain't No Stopping Now, Marlon McClain, featuring BD3, is up now right here on Rhythm and Soul Radio.
Turn my headphones up. Ain't no stopping now. You can't stop me, no, you can't stop me. Nah. Let me show you how. I'ma show you how, let me show you how. Just watch me. Keep it in the flow. You can't stop me, no, you can't stop me. Nah. Yeah, now you know. Lord knows my mission's to go. Legacy starts as we hit the door. Passenger side, you got the best eyes, but nothing the top sight. Vision in my mind, pick it tonight line. Fight for your spot with all your 9 lives. Dog, I'm the champ, it's grand times 5. All in the back trying to roll they eyes. Sizing me up, you know it's about my drive. I ain't tripping the bit, it's all a part of my life. Pump the bass and vacate the place, now embrace your fate. Same grace in case when fate tip the scales, we meet face to face. I run the race, dog. You can't stop me, no, you can't stop me. On my year 20, I'm running the road rocky. Wanna stop shows, but bills are still piling. I'm trying to manage the valley to get broccoli. New world living in no rules delinquent. All big dividends made of black citizens. I'm on my bitterness, I'm feeling great right. Every morning when I wake up, better pray light. Pray your brother shine harder than the daylight. Ain't no stopping now. Can't stop me, no, you can't stop me. No. Let me show you how. I'ma show you how, let me show you. You can't stop me, no, you can't stop me. No. Yeah, now you know. I'ma show you. Turn my headphones now up. What the hell are you waiting for? Can a young brother make money anymore? Make a flow to sell out world tours, even if the fan is watching from their phone. What a time to be alive. Even better, what a time to be a Gemini. Duality's reality, I see from both sides. Blessing on three, I rely on that eye. Who's gonna stop you from chasing that check, from becking that bent, from flexing that flex? All you gotta do is keep your foot on their neck and move with the proper respect. Ingenuity, gratuity, you get it? If you keep a G, then you never will regret it. The honors in your legacy is bigger than your lettuce. Peep the words from the legend.
Ain't no stopping now.
You can't stop me, no, you can't stop me. Nah.
Let me show you how.
I'ma show you how, let me